as we say here in the South, the left's original hate hoax, the one that started it all. The idea that, hey, every election year, midterms, need a hate hoax, need something to drive out Democrat voters who are black, need to convince them that the only thing standing between them and a return to Jim Crow style slavery and post slavery eras is a Democrat Party, because there are literally mobs of elite white men who are coming for you. The Duke lacrosse case. The Duke lacrosse case. I played a small role in the Duke lacrosse case. A small but stunning role in the Duke lacrosse case for me. It was really honestly a psychological turning point for me, where I realized just how bad the left was and just how bad the left-wing media was. And I'll get to that in a minute. This morning, what we all knew for so long, the accuser in the Duke lacrosse rape case lied. Made the whole thing up. Just made it up. Because why not? She's now, by the way, in prison for murdering her boyfriend. And the statute of limitations has passed for the perjury that she did in court against these boys, whose lives were ruined. Also, she's found God, she says, and she wants to clear things up. So, I always love when somebody waits till past the statute of limitations to clear things up, because God. But whatever the case, at least she did it. These boys need this. They need this final affirmation, so this thing doesn't follow them for the rest of their lives. One of the left's original hate hoaxes. Take a listen. This is stripper Crystal Mangum explaining that actually she was not raped by the Duke lacrosse boys at all.
I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't. And that was wrong. And I betrayed the trust of a lot of other people who believed in me, and made up a story that wasn't true because I wanted validation from people and not from God. I hope that they can forgive me.
Maybe she's sincere. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Because this is not entirely her fault. It's mostly her fault, but it's not entirely her fault. I was an investigative reporter in the middle of this in North Carolina. That's how I ended up in talk radio all those years ago. Well, many of you are still with me from that time. And I was covering the Duke lacrosse case like everybody else in the state was, trying to find an angle, trying to get an edge. Except I was willing to go wherever the story took me, unlike every other reporter in the state who was a liberal and a hack. And an amazing thing happened to me. And this was one of these life-changing things, okay? This is one of those things where you sit back and go, oh my gosh, what are these liberal newsrooms doing? I get a call one day because I've been covering the Duke lacrosse case and I've been asking legitimate questions. I get a call one day. It's a lawyer. He wants to know on background, can he talk to me without his name being revealed? I said, yeah. He had gotten documents from inside the North Carolina crime lab. The person who got them for him snuck them out. These documents showed that the DNA evidence in the lab excluded the Duke lacrosse boys. We were 9-10 months into the case by then, with the media lying day after day after day after day after day after day to keep it going. He said, hey, you want this? I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. I mean, that's a break of a lifetime. I have that as a reporter. Yeah, let me see it. I was skeptical. I mean, come on. Really? You're telling me the DA in the case, Mike Nifong, is suppressing this evidence that there are cohorts of his inside the lab that are too, so the left can drive it and drive it and drive it and drive it and lie and drive it. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. So he got me the evidence. Snuck it out. Boys were absolutely innocent. Knew it almost from the beginning. Wow. Now, here's the shocking part. The mind-bending part. And for me, one of the forks in the road in my life, in understanding how absolutely profoundly corrupt the liberal mainstream media is. He said to me, and I asked him, I said, well, this is great. Thanks for the scoop. Wow. I mean, this is going to be a career maker for me. But I write for Creative Loafing. It's very popular left-wing weekly, very popular left-wing weekly. Why don't you take it to the Charlotte Observer? Why don't you take it to the Raleigh News and Observer? I mean, why me? Oh, I did. Come again? Well, I did. I'm sorry. You took it to the Charlotte Observer and the Raleigh News and Observer. These documents from inside the lab showing these boys have been innocent pretty much from the beginning. They've known. Nifong knew. He was the prosecutor. So did those at the lab. Remember at the time, our North Carolina lab was an attachment of the state attorney general's office that was run by Democrats too. He said, yeah, I took it to him. You took it to him? Yeah, they didn't want it. He said, you were actually my third choice. He said, somebody pointed me to you and said, you'll publish what they want. It was a turning point in my life. It was that moment, and everybody, they call it red pill now. Everybody has one. Maybe you had one. I'm sure you did if you're listening to me at this time in the morning. It was my red pill moment. I knew the media was liberal. I sat in the city council meetings with them. I saw how they lied. I saw how they excluded information. I knew their game, but I didn't fully realize how psychopathically evil they were. And so as we were vetting this information with the attorneys, we were doing all these things before publishing, which took almost 2 weeks. I watched these news outlets that were driving this in the nation. The Associated Press out of North Carolina, the Raleigh News and Observer, the Charlotte Observer. I watched them lie about these boys and lie, knowing the whole time that this lawyer had gone to them and said, it's not true. I could prove it. Mike Nifong, the prosecutor, is lying. He's suppressing this evidence. He wanted to run for higher office. He was using this himself, and the Democrats nationally were using it to try to drive black vote because it was a national election year. It was a midterm year. You know what it was like to sit in your cubby as a journalist and get that red pill? It truly changed me. Seeing the bylines of those reporters underneath that and seeing all those stories go national, what they were doing to these boys, knowing they knew they were lying. Changed everything for me. It radicalized me, I got to tell you. That was 2006. 2006. It changed everything. So anyway, we eventually published that in Creative Loafing, which was a very popular weekly back then, but obviously, not with the heft of the reach of a Charlotte Observer or a News and Observer in Raleigh or Associated Press. And for about a week, they tried to pretend I didn't publish it. Back then, we didn't have the internet like we do now. And they sort of tried to black it out and pretend it wasn't there. People started talking about it, and local news station picked up on it and called me and asked me, hey, will you share it with us? Yeah, sure. Just give me credit. And the pressure grew where they couldn't hide it anymore, couldn't keep pretending. And they finally were forced to admit there was evidence inside that lab. Those boys have been innocent almost from the beginning. They knew. I've never been the same again. This is why I don't believe anything my government tells me, and I certainly don't believe anything the lying mainstream media tells me, and I know what they are capable of. Eventually, Mike Nifong would go to prison for what he did in that lab. The person who actually belonged in prison, Mike Nifong, the prosecutor. By the way, Mike Nifong has not yet found God or apologized to those boys. Said he lied in the way she did. But those lies, my point here, this accuser, Crystal Mangum, the Duke lacrosse accuser, what she did was terrible, but she should have never been able to do it. She should have been debunked from the beginning. It took lying left-wing liberals to empower her at the county level, but also at the state level in North Carolina, Democrat politicians, attorney general, and also in order to create and further lies, it also took a lying media who knew damn well who knew damn well that evidence sat inside that lab and they were innocent. Knew it. And lied to you anyway. They're still lying today. You know why these drones are freaking people out? Are they freaking you out? You know why these drones are freaking people out? It's because our government, people understand, people know, our government will not protect us from foreign adversaries. If the Democrats are fond of those foreign adversaries like they are of Iran, they won't protect us. If they're fond of those foreign adversaries like they are of China, they won't protect us. That's what's so scary. It's not the fact that they're up there. We could easily shoot them down if we wanted to. It's the fact that you can't trust a thing your government says about them. And they have zero interest in protecting you from them. Yesterday, White House spokeshack John Kirby went full Baghdad Bob. I mean, folks, this is the Chinese balloon all over again. And that's where people really learned. Not only will they flat out lie to your face about what you're seeing in the sky, they won't protect you from it. In fact, they will go the mile to allow the enemy to fly over our most sensitive sites while lying to you about it to buy the enemy time to continue doing it. That's what we learned from the Chinese balloon. It's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. Listen to just a small sample of John Kirby lying and gaslighting yesterday. Here we go.
We have not been able to, and neither have state or local law enforcement authorities, corroborate any of the reported visual sightings. To the contrary, upon review of available imagery...
I didn't know law enforcement agencies out there. Nobody believes these drones are real. Not that.
And in New Jersey, Monmouth County Police released this heat map of reported drone sightings. This is just from the last few days. You can see they cover a chunk of the central part of the state. Lawmakers and in New Jersey.
Over 100 on that map. The sheriff, by the way, is calling for state of emergency. So, I mean, all of that is out there in the media. And Kirby's like, there's no local law enforcement's been able to corroborate any of this. You people are nuts. It's full Baghdad Bob. We've seen this before. They did this with the Chinese balloon to buy time for the Chinese to do this. That's what they did. It's what they're doing now. To buy time for whatever this is. We don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know. Nobody does. But we can tell you this. They're buying time right now. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. And it's almost laughable, the game that they're playing. In this, John Kirby contradicts himself from the beginning to the end of this 1 minute and 16-second statement, okay? And he's got this little smirk on his face. This is fun. He's having a good time. Take a listen. Oh, here we go.
Can you make that make more sense? Because I think people in New York and New Jersey see drones the size of an SUV over their house every night and think that that doesn't make any sense.
Certainly I understand why people would be looking at this and being concerned about it. We're concerned about it too, which is why we have the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, my goodness, looking at this. And we're taking it seriously. And we understand that people are concerned. We understand that they got questions. We got questions too. And we're working hard to get the answers to that. What I can tell you as we sit here today, we haven't seen any indication thus far that there's a public safety risk, and we haven't seen.
Government know what they are.
We are still investigating this. I can't tell you definitively. I cannot characterize for you definitively what these sightings are. I can just go back to what I said at the opening. We've looked at the imagery. We can't corroborate some of the reported sightings through our own expert analysis using sophisticated detection techniques, but that doesn't mean that we're putting our pen down here this afternoon and calling it a day. We're going to keep at this.
What are you doing, though?
We are continuing.
We don't know what they are, but also we do know that there's no foreign threat also. I wish I could show you his face. I can't. It's radio. He's got a smirk. He said, this is fun. This is fun. Texter writes, Tara, do you think the drones could be used to sabotage our electric grill? Our electric grid. Do you think the drones could be used to sabotage our electric grid? See, this is why people are afraid. You know why they're afraid? It's not because, and this runs through your mind, it's because if they could, if that's why they're here, Biden administration's not going to stop them. Nah, they're not. They'd love the grid to go down. Love it. Do you know how much power they'd have? Do you know the kind of scams they could run? That'd shut down the internet, wouldn't it? That'd solve a lot of their problems. Texture writes, Tira, same thing they said about the Chinese spy balloon. Bingo. Let me remind you of this really quickly, okay? Because this thing is following the same exact track as the Chinese spy balloon. Do you remember? Because I remember I covered it day to day. The balloon is cited and reported on by a local reporter. That's the only reason it made it to the national level. At first, they said they did not know what it was. Remember, there was even UAP, UFO. Remember all of that around that? Well, what is it? Was it? Yeah. Then it was, oh, that balloon. Yeah, that's a Chinese weather balloon. No, that's a weather balloon blown off course. Yeah, it's Chinese, but that didn't mean to. Then it was, we didn't shoot it down because we didn't see it till it was over land, and that might be dangerous. Then it was, oh, that Chinese balloon. Yeah, it doesn't have any capabilities to do anything harmful. It's just a weather balloon blown off course. It doesn't have any operational capabilities that would, compromise us or put us in danger. Then it was, oh, that balloon. Yes, it does have things that could compromise us and put us in danger. Then it was, well, but we waited. See, we'd love to shoot it down, but we're trying to protect human life. We would have totally shot it down if we could have. But see, it's over land. Then it was, oh, that balloon. Yeah, we watched it take off from China. We have satellite capability to do that. Oh, and we watched it cross international water. Yeah. Oh, and we watched it enter U.S. waters where we could have safely shot it down. But we didn't. Sorry. And then it was, oh, now that there's outrage and it's hurting Biden in the polls, you know what? We can shoot it down after all. And they did. After it went all the way across the country. And remember, at one point, it was making figure eights around some of our most sensitive sites, and they let it. And I was saying at the time, it got so ridiculous. Do you remember this? They're buying the Chinese time is what they're doing. They're buying the Chinese time to do the surveillance and do whatever they need to do. And by the way, this week, we began to get an idea of why they might do that. Act Blue, the massive fundraising nexus of the Democrat Party's raised over $2 billion. Yeah, we just found out this week, since 2003, they have allowed the Chinese to donate to their party using debit cards, like preloaded debit cards. That's, by the way, totally illegal. It's a felony every time they do it. And they're like, oh, those cards. Yeah, we're going to shut that down. Sorry about that. The only reason they did it, by the way, is that a Republican congressional committee found out about it and launched an investigation. And they're like, oh, we'll shut that down right now. Bottom line, the Chinese have moved through thousands of donations, millions, tens of millions, we don't know the full figure, into the Democrat Party coffers. And then you see them stand back and lie to us to let us surveil our most sensitive sites. What are they letting the Chinese do right now? How much did the Chinese pay for that? We know at least $20 million to Hunter and Joe. No, I'm sorry, it was $30 million to Hunter and Joe from the IRS whistleblowers a few weeks ago. I mean, the Chinese pay you that kind of money? You do whatever you want in America. And the American people sense this. They sense that the Democrats in charge and the Pentagon, all their appointees, will let our enemies do whatever the heck they want on our soil. They're not wrong about that. Well, if you've got a Stanley mug, you have a Stanley coffee mug, might want to throw it out. They're being recalled, proven to be dangerous. Basically, the lids detach and burn users. Nothing like getting a big splash of coffee in the face when you tilt it back to drink it. So just be careful if you have that. There's a recall on for those this morning. You know what's interesting, folks? You know the debates for a long time, Christians versus science, Darwinism, how to believe that, or you are Neanderthal. We know everything about our origins. You think that human beings didn't come about the way Darwin said. Well, you're a Neanderthal yourself. Whoa, they didn't, did they? I actually was so fascinated with archaeology. I actually accidentally got a second degree in it. Like I had completed it without realizing it because I took so many of my electives in it. I've always been fascinated in it when I was at UNC Chapel Hill. And you know what's amazing? They don't know a damn thing. Everything they taught me, and I mean everything, was wrong. I can remember arguing with my professor at the time. How do you know this? How do you know this? How do you know this? I had a hard time believing we all came out of what at the time was the African continent, and that there was only one origin for humans, and that we were a mistake. We were a randomly generated mistake. I could not wrap my mind around. I used to argue with my professors. They treated me like I was dumb. I was right. They were wrong. And I was just a kid. And we're finding all that out now. Back when I was at UNC Chapel Hill, not that long ago, Neanderthals and human beings were drawn progressing side by side. Two separate species. That's what I was taught. I want to go get my money back. Bombshell overnight, we're finding out the very, very, very widespread amount of interbreeding between Neanderthals and human beings. And that was pretty recent, between about 43,000 and 50,000 years ago. This is fascinating to me because I've done one of those DNA kits. And I'm having a usually high percentage of Neanderthal. I'm actually more Neanderthal than Elizabeth Warren is Indian. It's almost 4%. I'm sorry, almost 5% on my mother's side. So overall, I have more than most of the population. It's in the high 2s percentage. That's fascinating to me. I mean, what were my ancestors doing? Running around getting jiggy with it, that's for sure. I wonder if it was consensual and how did they talk, or was it not consensual? And who was doing who? You get some crazy stuff in our history. But at first it was supposed to be isolated. Folks, we only found the first of these hybrid skeletons in the last 15 years. And that was before DNA testing was really coming to the fore. We could go into our DNA and find out, oh my gosh, these morons at the university told us we were Homo sapiens. We're not. They died. Yeah, they're gone. No, we're hybrids. You came out of Europe, you're white, you're hybrid. For some reason, only we survived. Don't know why. It was a cataclysmic event somewhere between 10 and 13,000 years ago. Weirdly, the Bible is far more accurate than what I learned at UNC Chapel Hill, where they had an absolute disgust for anything in that book. Isn't that weird? It's weird, right? What happened to the Homo sapiens? Why'd they die out? See, the story was that the Neanderthals died out, but we, being the superior species, of course, survived. Nope, it's not what happened. Nope, not even close. Well, Neanderthals did die out, but so did the Homo sapiens. Only the hybrid survived. Whoops. I want my money for my degree back. What's fascinating is if you are Caucasian or you are mixed, you have some Caucasian blood, you come out of Europe, you're a hybrid. You are not a Homo sapien. You've got Neanderthal in you. And we find more and more and more in our DNA. Now we're finding it's more recent, which is really interesting. If you're an East Asian, you've got a little bit, but not as much. If you are African, you don't have any. The only pure Homo sapiens come out of Africa, except a lot of the crossbred folks went back to Africa and rebred into that population. And so there is Neanderthal blood in African populations, but only from the crossback. So it's absolutely fascinating to look at this and to begin to understand we are hybrids. And so when you look at the all those drawings that were in those textbooks that I paid money for, they were expensive. They wouldn't let you buy them used either for some of those classes. And they were expensive even back then. They were all wrong. They showed this like side by side track. And then they found, remember, the skeleton, a little boy, and he was mixed. And, oh my gosh. And this was thought to be an aberration. It wasn't. It was the norm. It was the norm. For some reason, people with Neanderthal blood, with the exception of some populations in Africa, were the only ones that survived in Europe. Don't know why. They have some theories on it, some immunity stuff that we got, and other things that helped us to better adjust. For some reason, the hybrid population was hardier in terms of physical survival. So much more hardy that, again, the original Homo sapiens died out, and so did the Neanderthals. Why was that? God, I'd love to know, wouldn't you? But I know who didn't know. My professors. They didn't know. And you know what that means? You know what that means? I don't believe anything that the left, which dominates archaeology and bioarchaeology the way it dominates everything else, I don't believe anything they have to say. My mind is more open today to any crazy population ideas, any crazy ideas about the origin of humanity than I've ever been, because everything was proven wrong. You know what's really wild too? Also learned about all those extinct dinosaur species. Come to find out, 2/3 of those were fake. That came out a few years ago too. Yeah, we had misunderstood the fossil record. We figured all this out once we got DNA. We had misunderstood the fossil record. And what we thought were different species of dinosaurs actually were just like juvenile, basically and teenage versions of same dinosaur. 2/3 of the species of dinosaurs we thought existed didn't. They got it all wrong. And you know what? I bet you they're still getting it all wrong. It's getting better though with DNA. This goes to show you nothing we're told. By the way, you know what's really interesting? What's really interesting is, again, the most accurate archaeological book is the Bible, because we're going back in DNA now. We're mapping the genome, and you can see it narrow to about 10 to 12,000 individuals right around the time of the flood in the Bible, and then boom, explode back out, just like the Bible said. Wish I could go back, laugh in the face of those know-it-all archaeology professors. What a joke. Texter writes on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line, shoot down a drone and there'll be hell to pay. Shoot a healthcare executive, though, and you're a hero. Yeah. Now, the texter writes, Biden considers a pardon for Stanley coffee mugs, faces backlash. Texter writes, hey, Tira, if we've witnessed all the lies from officials in the Mockingbird media on so many reports, why do we believe the Mangione narrative? I'm not sure what happened, but the official fictional story isn't it. Well, I don't believe anything anybody says anymore. We have to report what we know right now. Speaking of Luigi Mangione, who's, by the way, the coat he was wearing has sold out to his fan base. What a typical liberal this guy is. Goes off literally half-cocked. By the way, there's a copycat now down in Florida. I was hunting a healthcare executive. They got her. She's, of course, shocked, too. Did anybody catch this? Because I haven't heard anybody saying much about this. In his manifesto, he points out, U.S. is the number one most expensive healthcare system, but 42 in life expectancy. Yeah, liberal talking points. United is the largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, and Walmart. Okay. It has grown and grown and grown. He says they've gotten too powerful and they continue to abuse our country. And he's saying, well, that's why I had to go kill the executive. Okay, but you took the time to research all this, right, before you did that? No, not really. He writes, quote, frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. The problem is complex. You hauled off and killed a guy, but you didn't take the time to analyze the whole situation with the healthcare industry. Nah, I didn't. I just went ahead and killed him. Okay. That makes perfect sense. And now we find out he wasn't even a customer of United Healthcare. That just came out. Typical liberal, half-cocked, and so were the rest of them. If he had taken the time to figure out why United Healthcare denies claims that it knows darn well it owes the money on, which is evil, criminal, they deserve to be sued on it. They actually created an algorithm to deny legitimate claims of people who were so sick they figured they didn't have the energy to go hire an attorney and fight them, but they know they owe the money. Why did that happen? That happened for one reason: Obamacare. Obama, you protested against the wrong group. It was the Democrats. They forced you to buy this insurance, and that's why the CEOs can do this stuff. But you'd have known that, moron, if you took the time to do your research. But you couldn't be bothered. And he even admits it in his manifesto. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I just killed a guy. Donald Trump, Times Man of the Year. And in that interview, he begs them to stop World War III. Just stop it. This week, our country did something insane. I'm sorry. The Biden administration did something insane. They doubled down on their attempts to start World War III before Biden leaves office. They're on an expedited timeline, by the way. Proving also, by the way, that I was right. On the agenda, and I've brought you proof of this time and time and time again, was a plan to start World War III with Russia after the election. They had to get Her Highness, initially it was going to be Joe Biden, into office before they could do it. We had all kinds of leaks about this, including from NATO. They were drawing up war plans, so was the German government. And the plan was to have U.S. troops on the ground in Ukraine taking fire from Russia under the command of NATO. They couldn't do it before the election. They were even beginning to work on a draft for men and women so they could feed them all into the war machine. It was going to be hugely profitable and lots of fun, very homicidal too. And for absolutely no reason, like the rest of their forever wars, endlessly pointless forever wars. Well, we've watched a procession of officials go in and out, NATO officials go in and out of Mar-a-Lago as Trump tries to stop World War III. God bless him. And NATO doubled down yesterday, telling Europe, the head of NATO, Mark Rutte, in a speech, hey, yeah, World War III is coming. Yeah, go ahead and accept it. Who plans for a war? Who does that? These people are nuts. And he said, we need to go ahead and put the European economy on war footing. Just prepare for the war we're going to have. Who schedules a war? Well, we know the Germans did. Their war plans leaked. They were shockingly detailed, including where troops, including U.S. troops, would be in Ukraine month to month to month in 25. We dodged such a bullet. And this is why you were seeing them. Remember the head of Slovakia, I'm sorry. The prime minister of Slovakia, who is against the war, but they're also members of NATO, came out and said, hey, listen, they are drafting plans for this war. They're just waiting till after the UK and the American elections. And he tried to warn everyone, they're trying to take us to war. They will do whatever it takes to get into a war with Russia. They want it. They're committed to it. And you remember what happened? Our government came out and said, nah, shucks, that's not true. So did the UK. But France doubled down and said, yeah, it's fine. And by the way, we'd like to send our troops too, 25,000 of them. They don't tell you any of this here in America. They wanted young people to be caught by surprise when they get drafted and sent to die in the Russian battlefield for really no reason that anybody can identify. Well, the plan was always to have this be a ground war, very much in the style of World War I and World War II. A lot of people get rich in Washington. A lot of these contractors that donate heavily to the Democrats and some neocons, and they'd all get rich. We'd have a ground war, was the plan. But they're not going to do that now. They can't do that now. They can't get their ground war because Trump won. And that's why you're seeing them hurl these missiles. This is a Hail Mary pass to get into World War III. And I hope they can piss Russia off enough that Russia will retaliate, hit a NATO country, trigger Article 4 and Article 5, and then they've got permission to really get the war going. They didn't intend to do this with missiles or, God forbid, nukes. But now they've got to take a shortcut. Before they were just going to menace them with troops, including U.S. troops, including our kids. Folks, I can't tell you the size of the bullet that we dodged here. Because they're still trying this. They're trying to get good and deep into the war so Trump can't undo it. Trump begged them to stop in this time interview. Listen to what he said. It's crazy what's taking place, talking about us hurling these missiles into Russia, which we're doing. These are our missiles. It's our targeting technology. These are our satellites. Ukraine has none of this. We just use a Ukrainian finger to mash the button. And Russia isn't fooled. It's crazy what's taking place, Donald Trump's talking, it says to the interviewer. What is he talking about? What's crazy? I'll tell you what's crazy. This is what he's talking about. Russia has said, if you hit me again with ATACMS, I will respond in a potentially nuclear way and hit a NATO country. And you know what we did? Cool. Let's find out if you're telling the truth. Yeah, let's see. They don't care who dies. These are homicidal maniacs. And that's why Trump said, and this is his strongest statement yet, we've been waiting for this statement from him. Quote, it's crazy what's taking place. It's crazy. I disagree very vehemently with sending missiles hundreds of miles into Russia. Thank you, sir. Why are we doing that? Question mark. I don't know. We're just escalating this war and making it worse. He says that should not have been allowed to be done. Now they're doing not only missiles, but they're doing other types of weapons. Really? And I think that's a very big mistake, Trump says to Time. But the number of people dying is number one, not sustainable. And I'm talking on both sides. He says it's really an advantage to both sides to get this thing done. Okay. Endless fact checks when I told you. I have been telling you because I get real news on this. You can get real news on this from Times of Asia and Times of India, that the real numbers were somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million people dead in that war. And ABC News admitted over the last 48 hours, it's a million. It's a million casualties. About 370,000 grievously injured, the rest killed on both sides. This is a meat grinder for no reason. And they wanted your kids smack in the middle of it. And we dodged that. J.D. Vance was warning about the draft before the election. So was Laura Ingraham. It was coming. They were going to feed our kids into it. And we dodged that. So they're desperately trying to save the war. So this lunatic head of NATO, Mark Rutte, just gave this speech. Says, basically, we're in World War III for no good reason that I can identify. And we need to shift. We need to shift our economy to wartime economy.
It is time to shift to a wartime mindset and turbocharge our defense production and defense spending.
Now, what's interesting is what the Russians are saying here, okay? I just hope they can hold on till somebody sane gets in office, which would be Trump. We've got 30-some days. I pray every day that we can avoid terrible situation. I do. I literally pray. Please, God, please protect us from these evil people. I know you do too, even if you're not religious. But you've got Dmitry Medvedev. Medvedev. I never can say that man's name right. Dmitry Medvedev warning Trump won't stop the war in Ukraine because if he tried, he could become the new Kennedy. And he's saying, this is fascinating. He's saying, look, Trump might try to stop this war, but we believe they will kill him if he does. And he's saying, listen, we have to go forward as if nobody's going to stop this war, even though Trump wants to stop the missiles and will stop them the second he takes office, because they'll kill him if he tries. Folks, the times we live in, where this is just said, it's blacked out here, but it's all over. This is what people read in India. This is what people read in Asia. This is what people read around the world. It's not blacked out there. You know how crazy we look? It's nuts. Texture writes, Tara, I feel like if Trump just says we're going to pull out of NATO, all these other countries will just back down because they can't afford the war. That's my hope too. Texture writes, Tara, when Trump becomes commander-in-chief, even if the NATO treaty is triggered, doesn't he control where our troops go? Can he give orders for troops to be in geographical areas, not in Europe? Yes, he can as the commander-in-chief. And we need to do that. We need to say, heck no. But they're trying to get us deep and mired enough in it that he'll have trouble politically backing out. And I don't know what they're capable of. I don't either. And the most dangerous thing is if Russia actually believes what Medvedev said, that it doesn't matter which leader is in office in the U.S. because they'll kill Trump. He says this is what they believe. He says they believe that, so we're going to have to act like Trump won't stop the war either, or if he tries, they'll kill him. Folks, this is razor's edge stuff. This is insane razor's edge stuff. Oh, and did you see what Israel just announced? Oh my gosh, talk about World War III. I'll tell you what that was next. World War III alert on so many fronts. They're rushing to get this done, including Israel. Times of Israel, they would know. Article yesterday that Israel is preparing to blow up the Iranian nuclear sites, as in the sites that Obama and Biden have funded for all these years to try to get Iran to the point that it would have nukes. Yeah, probably a pretty good idea. I'm honestly shocked they haven't done it before now. But that was yesterday. I mean, and maybe Israel feeling that like they can't do it with Biden in office. And they're making the preparations now because they know Trump will support doing that. It should have been done a long time ago. But that is the headline. And I put all this under World War III because this is what we're seeing. Israel preparing for potential strikes against Iran nuclear facilities. The Israeli Air Force is continuing its readiness and preparation for potential strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities following the weakening of Tehran's proxy groups in the Middle East and the fall of the Assad regime in Syria. Wow. Just wow. Meantime, did you see this? Daily Caller investigative report. Joe Biden is selling off the wall panels that are left so that Trump can't erect them along the border, and all of the terrorists and drug dealers, murderers and rapists, Tren de Aragua and all their friends can come right over the border. That they are and have been since Trump won election, quietly loading up the panels, moving about half a mile of these panels are stacked along the border waiting to be erected still. There's still some they haven't sold. They're moving about half a mile of paneling away a day, taking it to federal auction sites where the bidding starts at $5. We paid tens of millions of dollars for these panels. You want to talk about the screw you administration? There's no better metaphor for how much they hate the American people and how little they feel you deserve safety than this. Quietly sneaking off the panels. By the way, the Border Patrol source said the goal is to move them all out by Christmas. That had Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick enraged because he said, I tried to buy these wall panels. Texas tried to buy these wall panels. He's got $1 billion, with a B, $1 billion in his Texas budget to buy the wall panels. They want to erect them themselves. They have begged for these panels. And they're being quietly snuck off and basically thrown away with the bidding starting at $5 a panel. And folks, these are those huge bollard style panels, the ones that work. You want to see what a bollard panel looks like? Go look up every time Biden or the one time Kamala Harris went to the border. What do they stand by? Well, the bollard panels, of course. Well, why do they do that when they give an interview? Well, because there's no illegals on the other side coming in. They can't have illegals in the background. They'll be mocked. So they go to the one place where there are no illegals in the background, where Trump's wall is sunk into the ground. But otherwise, they have no use for the panels because they work. Here's Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick saying, wait a minute, you're selling them off? I tried to buy the wall.
They're despicable what they're doing to the American people. We've been trying to buy this wall from them for 4 years, and they wouldn't sell it to us. And you know what? I'm going to check in with our Department of Public Safety. Maybe we need to start pulling over these trucks to be sure they don't have too much weight on those trucks. Maybe these trucks need to be slowed down. We need to do everything we can in Texas to stop them. The taxpayers paid for this, and they want to stop President Trump in 38 or 39 days from rebuilding the wall. This is the legacy of Joe Biden. He lets off his son. He's letting off all these criminals. He's doing everything he can with these blue state governors and mayors to destroy this country. They are traitors to this country, leaving terrorists, leaving murderers, leaving rapists in this country. And now he wants to sabotage this president before he takes off. It is disgraceful and disgusting. He will go down as the worst, most despicable president in the history of this country. No one has done more to damage this country and hurt American citizens.
Now, here's where this is going to get interesting. Again, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, number 2 in charge in Texas. He helps write the budget, says, listen, I'm making an offer right now on TV. Let me buy these panels. Let me do it. And you know what's going to end up happening? The Biden, which it'll be in the news next week. Biden administration is going to turn him down. No, you can't have them. We're disposing of them. You Americans do not deserve to be safe.
Joe Biden is now hauling off the border wall that's been lying down for years, and he wants to auction it off starting at $5 a piece. Message to the White House right now. I will bid on all of that wall, and we will buy it in Texas, and we will give it to Donald Trump. So I'm going to find out first thing in the morning where are we going to take the bid. I've got $1 billion in my pocket to do it.
Yeah, he has that in the Texas budget. That's the portion for the wall. It's the portion for the wall. Folks, let me tie all this together with the drones for you. We know we have had over 700 people on international or FBI terror watch lists caught at that border, the northern and the southern border combined. We've got Tren de Aragua coming over. We've got murderers coming over. We've got rapists who are wanted in their own country coming over. And they're moving that border wall out as fast as possible, taking it to federal auction sites so that you can't be safe. That's the bottom line. You have no right to be safe because you are scum of the earth. You're American people and we hate you. That's how they think. Now, these same people are gaffing off the drones. They're gaffing off the drones. Do you think these same people who would do this with the wall, undermining American safety with everything they have in the last few moments of power that they have, do you think they'd protect you if these are Chinese drones that have nefarious purposes behind them? Iranian drones that have nefarious purposes behind them. Do you think they'd protect you? No. And that's not theoretical. We saw that when they lied to buy China time to continue circling and doing figure eight movements over our most sensitive sites with that balloon. Remember, after they lied and told us, oh, don't worry, it just randomly drifted. Yeah, no, they can't control it. But then admitted, well, okay, well, yeah, no, they actually can control it. They lied about every aspect of that balloon, every last one, to buy China time. And they will lie about these drones. If this is a foreign power, they will lie about these drones to buy them time. Just like they're buying Tren de Aragua time, just like they're buying the world's worst murderers and rapists time, just like they're buying terrorist time to get in here. Just like they sent the Border Patrol, according to the UK Daily Mail, out in the middle of the desert in Lukeville to solder open a gate. So 700 to 1,000 mostly Muslim men could be moved in every single night all summer long. Military-age men, no women. Through Lukeville, a place that didn't used to have any foot traffic because Trump's bollard wall was up. They brought him in for a reason. We're going to find out what it is. But you can count on this. They won't protect you. So we're counting down the days, folks. The good news is this era is over. We just have to survive in one piece to inauguration, despite what the Democrats are doing. Okay, so it is 7:38 a.m. I'm assuming the kids are in school, so the child-friendly portion of the show has concluded now, and I'll open the segment with this.
Diddy Combs accused of rape and sexual assault by 3 men in separate lawsuits filed today in New York at their highest court, that court being the Court of Appeals, according to NBC. And while there are nuances to each claim, they all share similarities, with the accusers saying they went to hang out with him either at a party or at his place in the Hamptons, and then they were drugged and sodomized while they were unconscious. Now, the civil suits detail these incidents that occurred between 2019 and 2022, all again alleging rape and sexual assault. The 55-year-old Combs has been in custody in Brooklyn since September when he was arrested on a years-long scheme to sexually abuse and exploit individuals. Now, his legal team tonight maintains his innocence. They're saying this in a statement.
Wow. You know what's amazing about this? So we are like, over the last week, we're up to 4 rapes now. Just really week and a half, 2 weeks. Period. What's been like about a week since we found out about Jay-Z? A little over a week. And that story of the 13-year-old girl, they sent a driver out to pick her up like they were sending for takeout. This is 2003. Allegedly brought back to a Diddy party and raped by Diddy, allegedly. That's what the lawsuit says. There was always another Hollywood type, a big star who was there and took place to party, but we never knew who it was. We found out this week in a lawsuit, the accuser says, allegedly, it was Jay-Z. Wow. Got away with that since 2003, allegedly. Now we're finding this goes on all the time. 3 lawsuits filed anonymously in New York, all 3 men claiming they would be given drinks and would wake up to Diddy raping them. This guy is an American icon. But the UK Daily Mail says this is just the Hollywood arm of the Epstein blackmail operation. That was a fascinating article. You Google it. They've got all kinds of sources there. This was the purpose of this was the blackmail. And he was very good at it. One of the men says he met up with Combs, with P. Diddy, to discuss pay he was owed. Combs served him a drink, and in 2 minutes, I start to feel like, just very tired, very sleepy. He woke up with Combs raping him, which is apparently something that goes on regularly. When he told Combs to stop, the man was told, "I'm almost done." Another man tells a similar story, saying he was given a drink at the Park Hyatt Hotel for an after party. Man says his vision began spinning and he lost consciousness almost immediately. When he woke up, in between blacking out, he says he saw a man and a woman sitting on the bed recording the rape on a camera. He says he was given $2,500 by the man who filmed the rape the next morning. The third man says he attended a party at Combs' mansion in East Hampton, New York. He was given a drink, fell in and out of consciousness. He woke up to a similar thing that's described in the Jay-Z lawsuit with the 13-year-old. He woke up to Combs and associates raping him. Okay. You know what's interesting about this to me? How is he getting away with this? That's the part of the story I want to know. And your first reflex would be, he's powerful. They probably threaten. Yeah, okay, but he's rich. Somebody who's rich like this does this to you? I mean, people, they want the money. They do. That's why they sue, but they're not. You know where else this happened? Epstein's the same pattern. The same pattern. We later found out a lot of these Epstein victims were threatened. Were these people threatened? That's what I want to know. Is it following the same Epstein pattern? And the other part of the Epstein pattern is this. The victims went to the police. That was what was so remarkable about Epstein. The victims would go to the police. They would initiate, the kind of reporting, the kind of procedures you would to investigate it, and then it would just be halted. They couldn't find police to move these cases. And the victims were threatened. And that's why Epstein got away with it. And he got away with it to the point that him getting away with it became the news story. And the victims would say, we went to the police would start investigating. Then, when, it would just stop. They'd do nothing. So they finally had to, and so they finally, because of the lawsuits of people finding out about it, and it's the same thing with Diddy, they finally had to slap his hand. Federal authorities did. And they let him, serve his time in his house mostly. They had to slap his hand to cover up for it. But the victims continued to come to Senator Marsha Blackburn and say, look, we were victimized by Epstein. Here are the high profile people who raped us as children. We're underage at the time. The police won't do anything. The feds won't do anything. We want the Epstein list, but the FBI won't let it go. That's why I cannot wait for Kash Patel to walk in there. I want the Epstein list. I want to know who these people are. But the fact that to get away with this as somebody so well known, I think that makes you more vulnerable in most cases. But he had no worries about it. I mean, again, if you look at the time frame, this is incredible. I mean, you're looking at the incident with Jay-Z, which is 2003, allegedly. And this is 2019 to, 2019, 2020, 21. He's been doing this whole time. Everybody knows, and he gets away with it just like Epstein. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say, given the timeline involved, given the people involved, this is going to bring down Hollywood. 2 cities fell this week. One was Damascus in Syria. Yeah, there's Hollywood. This is just the beginning of it. Texter writes, hey, Tara, some of the ones that didn't come forward, probably too embarrassed to come forward. Yeah, they count on that too. Another texter writes, maybe P. Diddy was working for the FBI. That's what I wonder. Texter writes, or some other agency. Texter writes, Tara, I hope Trump has a covert team buying those wall panels for future use. Yeah, me too. Texter writes, have they ever linked Diddy to Epstein? Did they collaborate? Not that I know of. Texter writes, Tara, it's a sad fact that male-on-male rapes do occur and often involve drugging, often not reported due to embarrassment. I think they counted on some of that. Yeah. Texter writes, Tara, did you hear LeBron James has taken a personal leave of absence, and he went to Diddy's parties too? Yeah, he actually tweeted about how they were next level, which doesn't mean anything. We don't know. He could have just been a guest. So I have to say allegedly. We don't know. We don't know anything. And finally, Texter writes, I hope the Hollyweirds go down. Yeah, I do too. Remember the Putin price increase? Yeah, no. It might look like inflation, but it's not. No. That was the first year of the Biden administration. No, it was the Putin price increase. And Putin had caused it somehow, some way. It is too complicated for you to understand. Just believe it. It's Putin. But then, like in Jaws, they needed a bigger boat. They needed a bigger lie because they wanted to continue looting and printing, spreading the money among their friends, printing at a level that has never been done before in human history. So they needed a bigger, better lie. And the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen, came up with one, and they repeated it. Inflation might be real, and it might not be a Putin price hike after all. But hey, you know what? It's transitory. Yeah. No, it's going away. It's very temporary. Don't worry. And folks, this is when we were at 4% and 5%, okay, before we would go on to hit over 9%. She lied. And we knew she was lying at the time. I called it a lie at the time. They all repeated it. Transitory. Why did she tell that lie? They've never been properly held responsible. Why did Janet Yellen, head of the Treasury, why did she tell that lie? Because she needed to buy them time to print more money. And it became, on average, $1 trillion extra beyond the budget, printed and or borrowed every quarter. It was monstrous. I mean, we only have like a $2 trillion economy, and you can't take out an extra $4 trillion. And, you print it, you borrow it. What happens? Prices go through the roof, and they did. That's why she lied. She had to buy them time to loot the Treasury. They looted it with the printing press. They looted it through printing. Now, for the first time, she has the unmitigated gall in an interview with the Wall Street Journal to say she really has regrets. She has regrets that she didn't pursue fiscal sustainability. You mean when you were lying so you could print and borrow more? You mean then, Jan?
Well, I am concerned about fiscal sustainability.
No, you're not.
And I am sorry that we haven't made more progress. I believe that the deficit needs to be brought down.
Yeah, that's why she not only did nothing about it, she lied so they can continue their spending spree.
Well, I am concerned about fiscal sustainability, and I am sorry that we haven't made more progress. I believe that the deficit needs to be brought down.
It's too late, honey. It's too late. It's going to be a big mess to fix. By the way, we're seeing some signs of inflation going back up because, of course, we are. We continue to print the same amount of money. Nothing's going to change. Wonder if Jeff Bezos is going to retract this mess. It's an old headline from the Washington Post a couple years back. Headline, right-wing conspiracy theories are having a bad day. FBI at the Capitol riot? Question mark. Nope. Oops. Yeah, just another conspiracy. Put it in here in air quotes. Just another conspiracy. And ended up being the truth. In fact, we're really honestly at the point now, if the media says, oh, that's a right-wing conspiracy, they might as well say it's true. We'll just submit it to you 9 months to a year from now. Or after we've used it to do maximum level damage. Thankfully, fewer and fewer people are listening to the mainstream media anymore. Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz, new report, admits there are more than 24 confidential human sources of the FBI's in the crowd on January 6th. So these aren't agents. These are confidential human sources. So these are sources of the FBI's. They work for the FBI. They are in many cases paid, but not all, paid by the FBI in the crowd on January 6th. And only 3 were authorized. But only 3 were assigned by the FBI to be present for the event. They stressed that none of the sources were authorized or directed by the Bureau to, quote, break the law, unquote. Love how they rate that. None were authorized or directed, but I mean, wink, wink, not none. To break the law or to encourage others to commit illegal acts. So Horowitz released this yesterday. Okay, this is a long, long way from where we started. I'm going to tell you how the story's going to end. Started with the FBI's director and others who worked there testifying under oath. There was no FBI agents there, and there was also no confidential human sources. No, they didn't put anybody on the ground. Nope. Now, some of them might have been in D.C., they admitted. They might have been in D.C., but we don't even know if they went. Oh, well, now we're saying we did know. We did know they went. Yeah, well, yeah, and we did send 3 of them specifically. Oops. This is how the walk back goes. No. They always do this at the end of every conspiracy. It's the weirdest part of it. The part that always confuses me. Why not just double and triple down? Conspiracy. But they don't. They admit it. The next step will be, okay, well, some of these confidential sources might have sort of fomented some of the violence. Yeah, they might have. Oh, and we did have agents on the ground. That'll be next. But they were just watching. They were just protecting. Then it'll be, well, no, they were handling the confidential human sources who fomented the violence. This is how they do it. But if they put it all out in one day, it would be too damaging. So they admit a little part, and then another little part, and then another little part. So only wonks like me catch it. So this is the beginning of that. This is the beginning of the walkabout. Well, we might have had some people in the crowd. Did we forget to tell you that? Were we confused? Well, you were under oath. That's a felony. Yeah, about that. We're never going to get in trouble for that. Or so we believe. Folks, I am never going to, for as long as I live, forget the video shown in court, but it ultimately didn't make a difference, of the Capitol Police doing a thing they never do at the Capitol. I know, I used to work there. I used to come and go from the Capitol every single day. You have a day where you forget your little lanyard that you're supposed to wear when you go through the security scanner. Guess what? You're going back on the metro. You're going home. You're getting it because they're not letting you in. They don't let you in. They don't care who you are. They don't care if you work for a Congress member. I used to. Except that one time, because I've never seen this before. That one time, Capitol Police, they run the place, standing there on January 6th. We've never gotten answers to this. Holding the doors open with their backs and making this gesture. Come on in. Come on in. Yeah, come on in. And waving past everybody. They just everybody filing by them. Come on in. Come on in. No. Moving the barriers. Come on. Come on. What was this setup? I've never seen anything like it. When I worked there, it was unfathomable that a Capitol Police officer would hold open a side door, no scanner, no security of any kind, and wave you in. Heck, they didn't even do that for members of Congress. except that one time. And someday we're going to get answers on this. You know what else we're going to find out? You know the black block clad guys in the front, the violent ones, not the ones who look like your dad, kind of ambling in peaceful protest guys. No, the black block ones, the violent ones. Them, we're going to find out they had connections to the FBI. Guarantee it. But you can't just say that, okay? You got to work up to it very gradually. So you walk back a little bit of your lie and then a little bit more of your lie until eventually, yeah. Texter writes, what with the Diddy list, if it goes public, think about all the movies and all the songs. Everything people will strike from the record and will have to be remade or redone or something. I can't wait to see it happen. Another texter writes, hey, Tara, the timing of the Hollywood revelations are certainly curious. It would be interesting to see what the American people might be willing to put up with if the Hollywood product was still good. Now that it all sucks and there are far better alternatives, it will be difficult for the silver screen to recover. Love ya, Spot. Texter writes, the drones, really? The drones are, I have to Google this. The drones are being sighted over Gastonia, North Carolina now. I used to live there, and I'm on their Facebook site, and there's like 405 comments about drones over Gastonia. Another texter writes, Tara, if the people in New Jersey begin to become sick with a mysterious contagious illness, we'll all know why. Yeah, I got a lot of drone stuff coming up. Folks, the Biden administration is going full Baghdad Bob on this. You know, yesterday, John Kirby, spokeshack and chief liar for the Biden administration, actually had the unmitigated gall to insist that you're delusional. You're confused. In fact, all of New Jersey is confused. No. These are just manned craft. There's no drones. But didn't I see on the no, you didn't. Because they all look like no, there's nothing here. Nothing at all. There isn't? Well, then how do you know it's not dangerous? Because you keep saying they're not dangerous. There's nothing here. You listen to just 2-3 minutes back to back of Kirby, and it's like, what? Well, we haven't completed our investigation, so we don't actually know the origins of these things. I thought you said they weren't real. I thought you said they were actually manned aerial vehicles. I thought you said they weren't drones. Well, we don't know. We're still investigating. Well, then why'd you say they were? And how do you know they're not dangerous? Well, we don't know, but we have no indication they're dangerous. And well, I have no indication these glasses I'm wearing are dangerous, but they might explode all over my face. I don't know. It's not the same as they're not dangerous. And then they say, no, they're not from Iran. Well, how do you know? Well, we don't know because we're not done with our investigation. So you know what? This is a game. You know what's really interesting? If you listen to the back and forth between Jackie Heinrich, who's one of the few reporters who asks real questions about this in the press pool, and Kirby, turn the volume off and watch his face. He is all but laughing. This is funny to them. Terrifying the American people is funny to them. And you know why the American people are so afraid of these drones? They're just drones. And they're big. You can't buy them commercially. You know why the American people are so afraid? Because we know in our guts, if this was China, if this was Iran, if this was Russia, if this was whoever, and they have nefarious intentions, the Biden administration would not protect us. In fact, they do what they did with that Chinese balloon. They would lie to buy them time to do whatever it is they want to do. That's why these are so scary. It's not because they're in the air. It's not because they're around. It's because we know the federal government will let them do whatever they want. What are you? Who are you? It's been amazing how the answer to that question has changed throughout my lifetime. College, I studied archaeology, loved it. Anthropology. Accidentally got it majored in it, just taking my electives were all in that. I'm so fascinated by where we come from, the answer to that question. So it's wild to me now that virtually everything that I was taught in college, which was practically an immersion in the religion of Darwinism, was wrong. I mean, like almost all of it. They didn't know. They thought they did. They didn't know. And we're getting one of the top 10 trending articles right now is about Neanderthals and finding out that we actually interbred with them much more recently than was thought before. We were getting jiggy 43,000 to 50,000 years ago. You know what I wonder? Was it consensual? Were we down with that? Yeah, or was it not? And if it wasn't, who forced the issue? I have so many questions. But folks, you know what it shows you? You know what's so funny, the irony of this? My professors had such a disdain for the biblical story of creation back then. They had such a disdain for it. And all these years later, the Bible was more accurate than they are. You know what I can remember most specifically about Neanderthals and human beings? And I have my family has on my mom's side an unusually high percentage of Neanderthal genetics. So it's very interesting to me. I'm almost 5% on my mom's side. It's four and some change. I think overall I'm like 2% some. It's just very interesting to me. Is that they would show the human evolutionary line, right? And there's Neanderthals and humans, and we're both running side by side, Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. And we were told we were Homo sapiens, Homo sapiens, actually. We're told that's what we were. And we're not. No, they died. They largely died out. They're dead. We're hybrids. Folks, it wasn't until 1998 we found the first skeleton of a child that they could tell by looking at it, the features, okay, so we didn't have the DNA capabilities then. Wow, it was part Neanderthal and part human. And they said, well, this is very rare. This must have been a rare case. No. If you're from Europe, biologically, you're from Europe, your people come from there, white European, you're a hybrid. The Homo sapiens, we thought we were Homo sapiens. They're dead. They're gone. They didn't make it for some reason. Only us hybrids did. I don't know why. And in your genetics, you have Neanderthal DNA. In fact, they said initially when they found it, they thought, well, it was very rare. Just a few humans would have it. And then more and then more. And they realized we all do. With the exception of some isolated populations in Africa. But that's it. We're not Homo sapiens. They died. We didn't even know what we were. That's how dumb we still are. We think we know everything, though. We do. And you know what's really interesting about this? About 10 to 13,000 years ago, humanity narrowed down to about 10,000 individuals. Like it says in the Bible. Yeah, we found that out from the DNA genome. And for some reason, the vast majority of those who survived have that Neanderthal DNA, with the exception of the African population. And even some of the African populations have the Neanderthal DNA because our European ancestors crossed back into Africa. We're told we're all out of Africa and we beat the Neanderthals out. We didn't. Well, they died too. I guess you could say we beat them out, but their DNA lived on in us. For some reason, only the hybrids survived. We don't know why. We have no idea why we're here. We don't know anything. But we think we do. We think we do. You know that same liberal bias that permeates everything, creates the show, just debunking the lies? It's all in bioarchaeology too. The bottom line is we don't even know who we are. And every year, you know what happens? We find out more and more of our DNA is Neanderthal. This little thing over here, this little thing over there. We're still mapping the genome. We don't know. So this is top 10 in the nation. People are fascinated with this. Top 10 in the nation article right now. Come to find out, we actively bred with them, got jiggy, if you will, played piano for 7,000 years, generation after generation after generation. Why do we do that? I don't know. It was about 43 to 50,000 years ago. There's 2 studies just came out on it. So the idea before is well, your great-great-grandfather might have bumped into your great-great-grandma, hit her over the head with a club, dragged her off. But no, this was systematic. We did it again and again and again and again. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Why? How? I don't know. But we did. It was intentional. And folks, think about that. Recently as 1998, we're like, well, it was just that one kid. Probably a product of rape, they thought. It's that one kid. It wasn't, it's all of us. In fact, we're not even homo sapiens. Did we think about that? Bible was right the whole time. They weren't. They weren't. You know what the next big bombshell that's going to rock humanity is? And this is what they're trying to suppress right now because it does not confirm Darwinism. In fact, nothing does. Darwin got it totally wrong. And we know that now, by the way, because Darwin's, for what Darwin argued to have taken place, we would have had to have had a much different rate of genetic, adaptation. We didn't. Darwin got the whole thing wrong. That's junk science. But we were taught it as law, like as the rule of the universe. I mean, when I was in school, heck, it's still the Smithsonian. I want to wipe it off the wall. It's misinformation. So we have so many new secrets and things to learn about ourselves and where we come from. And one just broke yesterday. I just think it's absolutely fascinating to find out who we are, really, which is that we don't know. But the story is even crazier than anything we ever imagined. So I wonder about my grandparents. I wonder who dragged who by the hair, or if there was any hair dragging. Maybe it was consensual. I don't know. Anyway, I wonder how the two cultures meshed. And by the way, we're finding we lived side by side. We lived alongside each other for thousands of years too. We didn't know that either. That broke too a few weeks ago. And for some reason, whatever it was about that Neanderthal DNA we have, it's why our ancestors survived when the rest of humanity died 10 to 13,000 years ago. Maybe it was just an isolated population and that's who happened to survive the flood. I don't know. Maybe it's just luck. But it's wild. It's absolutely wild. So that broke. And we're finding out, like I said, more. If you've ever done one of those ancestry kits, you can look it up because they put it in there now. What percentage DNA of your DNA is Neanderthal? So on my mom's side, it's unusually high. It's almost 5%. On my dad's, it's lower. So I come out around 2%. Most of us are 2 to 3%. In other words, we are more Neanderthal than Senator Elizabeth Warren was ever an Indian. I wonder if I can get like a university position. You know what I mean? Like, can I teach in the archaeology department or something? Maybe not. I don't know. But it's fascinating. You know what we're going to learn more? And you know what else is going to happen? My prediction? It's going to be just like the Bible says. It is, as crazy as that sounds, right now. It was the left's first hate hoax. They were all designed to do one thing: turn out black voters in an election year. This is why they only happen in even years, if you've noticed. Yeah. And the Duke lacrosse case was no different. It was 2006. And we're heading into a contentious midterm. The Democrats wanted to win it. They needed a hate hoax, and Duke lacrosse was perfect. I was an investigative reporter in North Carolina at the time I covered it. And it changed my life. No, it was my red pill moment. I mean, look, I was already well on my way to becoming one of us. But I didn't realize how bad the left-wing media was until Duke lacrosse. And so this morning, hearing that Crystal Mangum, the stripper who accused the Duke lacrosse players of rape, has completely recanted, said she made the whole thing up. Well, I'm not surprised. We all kind of knew that. But it was generous of her. 18 years later, after the statute of limitations has expired, to finally admit it.
I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't. And that was wrong. And I betrayed the trust of a lot of other people who believed in me, and made up a story that wasn't true because I wanted validation from people and not from God. I hope that they can forgive me.
Yeah, well, that's up to them. You know what's fascinating? I was an investigative reporter at the time, in Charlotte, that you know, in North Carolina, that all this was going on, and the coverage was coming out of North Carolina, and everybody was looking for an angle, and it would turn out that inside the crime lab in North Carolina, almost from the beginning, they knew that it was impossible for those boys to have raped her. DNA evidence. But yet it went on and on and on and on and on. Why? They hid it. Most specifically, prosecutor Mike Nifong hid it. Got it squelched. So I get a phone call one day, and there's an attorney on the line, and he's got sources inside the lab. And he says, you want a bombshell story about Duke lacrosse? And I said, well, yeah, what is it? He's like, you know, I can prove, I've got documentation that they didn't do it. And that they've known pretty much the whole time from the beginning they didn't do it. Like, who's known? Nifong's office. And I was like, yeah, let me see that. And we published it. The DNA evidence didn't jive. And they had hidden it on purpose to buy the Democrats time to spin the tail, whoop back black voters into a frenzy, and hopefully get them to the polls in votes for Democrats. That was the reason they wanted to do it. But what was so stunning, I said to the guy, I said, you know, I was writing for a small weekly newspaper at the time in Charlotte. I said, you know, why don't you take this to one of the big dailies? Why don't you take it to AP or Charlotte Observer? Why don't you take it to Raleigh News and Observer? And why are you bringing this to me? And he says, oh, I did. They didn't want it. What? This is my red pill moment, y'all. What? They didn't want it? No. Wait. You told them this, and they didn't want it. No. And that's why you're talking to me. And he said, yeah, I had heard that you'll print anything. Okay, sure. No, in other words, he didn't mean anything, but he meant like, you know, what? You'll print the truth. You're not bound by, you know, partisan constraints to lie. So he gives it to me, and, you know, we're spending like, you know, a week or two checking it out, running by lawyers, doing all the stuff we would do a story like that. And I'm watching these news outlets in our state who I now know knew it's fake. We're offered the same thing I was, and they're still reporting. They're wailing on these guys, racist, privilege, blah, 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 think they can get away with rape. And they know the whole time they're lying. That was my red pill moment. I knew the left was bad, and I was already a right winger. Don't kid yourself. I think I came out of the womb that way. But I didn't realize how bad they were, or the extent to which they would go to lie. So we published it, and the circus went on for about another week. I think everybody's trying to kind of pretend that what I had published, that I didn't publish it, that it wasn't real, that we could still wail on the Duke boys. Because you always need a white male, you know, you always need a white male monster. You always need a white male aggressor. to make one of these work. But eventually the tide would turn and we started getting, some local television news wanting to cover my version of the story. And then it ended up on the news and they couldn't lie anymore. And that was the end of the Duke lacrosse case. Mike Nifong, by the way, the prosecutor eventually went to prison, as he deserved to do. Love to see his mea culpa tape. Nice apology direct to the boys, like a real one, like a real one, like she just did. When he doesn't have anything to gain anymore, that'd be nice. I don't know if we'll ever get it. But I still maintain after all of these years that there had to be more than Mike Nifong involved there to cover that up, that evidence had been there almost from the beginning of that case. And yet it dragged on for months after months after months. But even though in the lab, they knew darn well those boys didn't do it. So while Crystal Mangum may be out this morning saying, hey, sorry, mea culpa, she didn't do it on her own. She didn't. She should have never been able to testify. She never gotten that far because they had the evidence in the lab the whole time and were covering it up, lying about it. It was a long story, but they did. But that was my red pill moment. When was your red pill moment? When you realized nothing is as it seems. And, folks, this is why I automatically come now at anything the mainstream media says, not just with distrust, but with an assumption they know they're lying. They're not confused. They're not misled. They literally know they're lying and don't care. And I've always been amazed by that because they make so little money. They make so little money to lie like that. I know. Anyway, I played a small part in that case, and today is the day of ultimate vindication. And, I hope those boys get some peace that they have always richly deserved. my personal red pill moment. When a lawyer came to me with evidence that Mike Nifon, the prosecutor's office, had known the whole time the boys were innocent, almost the whole time, almost from the beginning when the DNA test went down, and that they had hidden them inside the lab, and that he had gone out and lied, said the opposite was true about the test. That wasn't what red pilled me. It was the fact that the guy who brought me the scoop as a reporter, I was an investigative reporter in Charlotte at the time and covered the case. The guy who brought me the scoop had taken it to these other big media outlets first, and they didn't want it. It was like story of the year, right? They didn't want it. They didn't care. Why? Because they're all Democrats. And this was the first big Democrat hate hoax. They had a lot invested in it. Those boys had to be guilty, damn it. And what was so fascinating is once I had it and I had the documents and read it, and my mind just like exploded. Like, wow, they're covering this up. These guys are innocent. All these other reporters know this. And to watch their coverage in the couple of weeks before my story came out, as they continued to lie, and I knew they were lying. You know, and you always think to yourself, well, you know, I mean, they're deluded. They're liberal. You know, they're confused. Their ideology is blinding them. No, they are stone cold liars. And they will carry anything to fruition lie-wise. And it was interesting to me as my story came out. We were a weekly paper. And we were popular, but we were a weekly paper. We didn't have a circulation. They did. And they kept on for another week. They tried to plow through the fact that we had documents that said right out of that lab, those boys were innocent, and they knew it. They'd already done the test. They tried to just plow through it. That red pilled me. It changed the way forever I would look at the world, and I would look at anything. And so a lot of you are sending me your red pill moments, and it's really, and you know, when you have the red pill moment, it's like the haze clears off your eyes and you see the world. And one thing about the red pill moment, and this is why they say to Neo in the Matrix, you take the red pill, you take the blue pill, but you know, once you take it, it's permanent. It's permanent. You're never going to see the world the same again. And you don't, do you? You question everything. And you can't believe how much of it isn't real. Texter rates. My red pill moment was listening to Russ Castle on a call with deployed military male in Benghazi, who was explaining that what the media was reporting then was not what was really happening. The soldier explained he couldn't give details, but said it was all going bad. Texter rates. Tara, why is Biden allowing our enemies to spy on us? Isn't that an act of treason? Well, I mean, he did it with the Chinese balloon. He lied. They lied to buy China time to continue to surveil us. I still don't know why. Texture rates, Tara, my dad was red-pilled and taught me well. In 1960, he met JFK in a restaurant outside of O'Hare Field in Chicago. When Kennedy was assassinated, my father rejected the official narrative, always questioned the officials, he said, because they can take your property, your money, and your life. Yeah, good advice. Texture rates, Timothy McVeigh was my red pill moment. He said that he was an atheist and science was his religion, and the next day he was suddenly a right-winger. Yeah. Another texture rates, my red pill moment was in the 90s when I noticed the liberal bias on young CNN. I did my own several-week survey of their broadcast, confirmed a 3-to-1 ratio of liberal to conservative perspectives. Never trust the MSM. Texture rates, I finally feel vindicated after years of accusations by liberal relatives of being a conspiracy nutcase. Another texter writes, prosecutor Mike Nifong, he was the Duke lacrosse prosecutor, was an anti-war protester and a social worker, so go figure. Texter writes, only thing more embarrassing than her bogus testimony was Duke's lame response. Yeah, you know what? But the same reporters who knew they were innocent would just flog Duke until they said all of the right things. And again, this was a turnout operation. This was the left's first hate hoax. And they were so rewarded for their lies that they pull one almost every major election. I was surprised they didn't do one in this election. Texter writes, my red pill moment was 10, 11 years ago when my husband and I were on a road trip and accidentally found Rush Limbaugh's radio show. Wow, these are great. Texter writes, my red pill moment was when the MSM insisted there were no chemical weapons in Iraq. And finally, Texter writes, hey, Tara, I so appreciate your red pill moment story. Please tell me Pam Bondi is not cut from the same cloth as Mike Nifong. I can't, but we will find out. So, California, Connecticut, New Jersey, all seeing drones. Dozens of drones up in the sky. And John Kirby, the spokeshack for the Biden administration, is now gone full Baghdad Bob. I mean, to the level of ridiculousness. Listen to what he actually said yesterday. If you think that you saw a drone the size of a car, like it went right over your house, or maybe like a whole fleet of them. So one guy in New Jersey was talking to News Nation. He said, no, the size of a car is the size of a garage. He's like, I followed it. Some of these are really interesting. There's a story in the UK Daily Mail about one family that said the drone hovered over their car and it temporarily changed their clock. And then when it flew off, the clock went back to the correct time. In other words, it matched their phones. And they talked to a drone expert and was saying, yeah, that there may have been some like basically satellite blocking going on. And then when it went away, it receded. But these things are very interesting in what they do. And people seem to be legitimately seeing them. So take a listen, see if you can follow this from Baghdad Bob Kirby. Okay. He literally gaslights you and says, nobody is seeing these things. They're confused, and there's no law enforcement agencies in these states that are seeing them either.
We have not been able to, and neither have state or local law enforcement authorities, corroborate any of the reported visual sightings. To the contrary, upon review of available imagery, it appears that many of the reported sightings are actually manned aircraft that are being operated lawfully. The United States Coast Guard is providing support to the state of New Jersey and has confirmed that there is no evidence of any foreign-based involvement from coastal vessels. And importantly, there are no reported or confirmed drone sightings in any restricted airspace.
And in New Jersey, Monmouth County Police released this heat map of reported drone sightings. This is just from the last few days. You can see they cover a chunk of the central part of the state. Lawmakers.
Yeah, and the sheriff is demanding a state of emergency be called. But Kirby says none of that's happening, except I just saw it on TV. Okay. As best I can follow the federal government's position on this, this isn't happening. None of these have been confirmed. Not one. You're all confused. You're not seeing what you think you're seeing. Also, so there's nothing to investigate. But also, we're investigating these, even though there aren't any. And also, we don't know what they are. I thought you said there were planes, manned vehicles. Just follow along. This was 4 minutes of Kirby. I wrote it down. And also, we don't know what they are. But also, it's not happening. But also, we do know, even though we don't know what they are and it's not happening, that it's not Iran. And we know that for sure. Also. You know what's funny? If you watch Kirby talk to Jackie Heinrichs about 4 minutes, I did this earlier as I was rolling tape on it, but you turn the volume down so you can't hear it. He's all but laughing. This is fun. He's having a good time. He's having a great time. They are gaslighting you. This is hilarious to them. I don't know what they're up to. But folks, I must have 50 texts this morning on the text line with people saying, oh, this is what they're doing. This is who they are. It's Iran. No, it's Russia. No, it's China. No, they're ours. This is a plot to keep Trump from taking office, martial law. No, this is they're flying him to keep Trump safe from the drones from the enemy. Oh, my gosh. People are totally paranoid. You know why people are freaking out about this? It's not just because there's drones in the air. There's usually drones in the air. I mean, not a lot, but some, right? I mean, we see drones. Not this big. And that's because you can't commercially buy them this big. So it's got to be some entity. It's either going to have to be a corporate entity that is legally allowed to own them or some sort of military entity. But they're just brushing this off. Now, what's freaking out people is that people implicitly know now that if these are enemy drones that mean us harm, either surveilling us and taking information that they shouldn't have, all the way on up to maybe they're going to hurt somebody somehow, some way. They know the Biden administration won't protect Americans. They know that. This is the administration that is currently selling off Trump's Bollard Wall, knowing that over 700 terrorists have tried to infiltrate our borders. Known terrorists. They don't care. And their position is Americans suck and are not allowed to be safe. Not on our watch, they won't be. And you know implicitly you cannot trust them. You know they will lie to you. Folks, you know what this reminds me of? This is the Chinese balloon over and over again. Here's some more of Kirby.
We're concerned about it too. We haven't seen.
Wait. You're concerned? You just told us that none of these are real. This man makes no sense.
We're concerned about it too. We haven't seen any indication thus far that there's a public safety risk, and we haven't seen.
Know what they are.
We are still investigating this. I can't tell you definitively. I cannot characterize for you definitively what these sightings are. I can just go back to what I said at the opening. We've looked at the imagery.
You don't know what these sightings are, but also you do know that they're manned aerial vehicles and that everyone seeing them is confused. Got it. Can you hear that creepy little smile? And he knows exactly what these are. He does. You could tell it's still body language. He is having so much fun gaslighting the American people. This is fun to him. Freaking people out like this. I mean, this was one of the most bizarre press conferences I've ever seen. He literally flipped what he was saying back, forth, like a tennis match throughout the whole thing. But they're up to something. Somebody's up to something with this. And this whole idea that we can't shoot them down. I mean, this got just ridiculous at the hearing. Listen to this. This is the FBI explaining to poor Representative Dan Bishop from North Carolina why they can't shoot down these drones that also aren't there, apparently, according to John Kirby.
Is that something that it'd be hard to do? And then why do you need to intercept data in order to do that? If the object is there, destroy it.
It's a good question. I think the way it works, as I understand it, and my colleagues can talk about this operationally, if you had, let's say, a football game and you would have a perimeter, it would be declared as a temporary flight restricted area.
Okay.
So around that, you're going to have a buffer zone. You have an area where it's a no-go, and then you have a larger area around that where you might want to detect what's flying, and then you have a larger area around that where you might be tracking, but regular commercial drone use is okay. And so as they're getting closer and closer to the facility, you're detecting originally the signals to see what is that drone. You're trying to identify the drone. Oh, is that a UPS? Is that
like a long distance radar or something like that?
Exactly. So is that a UPS drone that's just delivering a package somewhere? Let it go on its way.
Okay, let me get this straight. From the Biden administration across two different agencies, it's not happening. You're confused. You're delusional, but also it is happening, and we don't know which they are. We don't know what they are. We don't know who's flying, but also we do know that it is actually also not Iran. And also, we can't shoot them down because we don't know if they are delivering Christmas packages. Ergo, we'll have to just let them violate the airspace. Sure. Okay. This is a government, you'll remember, with the ability with a satellite, and we've done this multiple times, to take out ISIS leaders on street corners, evaporate them from the sky using satellite targeting technology from space, and nobody else gets killed who's standing on the street corner. This is where we can take you out with satellite technology when you're standing by the turnstile and your suitcase going round and hurt nobody else. We do not know though about this. We do not know. This is a country with satellite technology and spy technology so good that we would later learn we watched the Chinese balloon take off in China, fly into international waters, fly into our waters, of course, not shoot it down, because I guess that's what Joe Biden's paid for, right? I mean, I don't know. Not shoot it down for some reason. Lie to the American people. Say you don't know where it came from. Say you don't know whose it was. Say it blew off course when you know damn well it did it. Then tell them, oh, actually, it is. They do have operational control. Oh, look, it's doing figure eights over our most sensitive sites. Lie and lie and lie and lie to what? Why did they lie last time with the balloon? To buy China time. Remember, eventually, when the uproar got so great, they had to shoot it down. That's what's happening. They will eventually be driven to shooting one of these down, but they're buying whoever or whatever is operating these time by lying. And the question is, why? 71307. Folks, the mainstream media coming to grips with the new reality. The Democrat Party doesn't know what it'll do without the ability to spin the narrative.
In the Philly suburbs. And I'm telling you, we are way off. The entire political class is way off. First of all, digital is a new door knocking. You got to understand that. We were laughing our butts off at Donald Trump for suspending his door knocking campaign and letting Charlie Kirk and Elon do a bunch of stuff online. We said, these guys are idiots. These guys are stupid. Then you start knocking on these doors. You know what people come to the door with? Their phone in their hand. They're in a 24-hour digital surround sound that has nothing to do with CNN, has nothing to do with any stuff that we do. I got a teenage son. I asked him, who are the most influential people in the world today? I'm thinking to myself, he's going to say Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Jay-Z. He says, Kai Cent, Aiden Ross, Jinxie, and Sketch. I don't know who he's talking about. I said, what platforms are you on? He goes, I'm on Twitch, Kick, and Rumble. I said, that sounds like you need to go to the hospital. What are these platforms? I'm telling you guys, the mainstream has become fringe, and the fringe has become mainstream. There are platforms, there are people out there that are getting 14 million streams, and we're on cable news getting 1 or 2 million. And so there is a whole world out there. Kellyanne Conway, I hate to agree with her, but I do a lot of times. Donald Trump understood that and we didn't. And that's not just.
Oh, they understood perfectly. No, they did. That's why they censored all those streams. By the way, that's Van Jones. He's at that's a New York Times forum. And Kelly Conway is sitting there. She's like the only token conservative, which shows they've learned nothing. It shows they've learned nothing. Folks, I never really took the time to explain what happened in this election to you. I've been thinking about that. I mean, really explain. It's been in my mind the whole time, and I never said the most obvious thing. You know what happened? You know why they lost? They lost because they implemented too much of the plan. And the reason they implemented too much of the plan, the open borders, the sneering at anybody worried about the open borders, the mocking of rape and murder victims, you know the case. What they did, the overkill with prosecuting January 6th. I mean, every single issue, they just went too far. To the point of absurdity. To the point where Americans begin to become scared. Well, you're going to let the Chinese just fly over our military bases and lie to us about it to buy them more time? Yeah, sure. Why not? Why did they do all of it? Why did they do all of it? Because they thought, they were convinced we would never win another election, and they weren't wrong. They weren't wrong. Why? Because they had total censorship. They had total control. They did not anticipate that Elon Musk would A, buy Twitter, but B, and they would have done a lot more to stop it if they'd known, B, would allow such a free media environment. They figured, well, he's got billions of dollars of government contracts. We could control him like we control everybody else. They figured wrong. Elon Musk is the only reason Donald Trump will be the president. He is. Because all those streams he's talking about, you can access all of them right off X. Number 1 most downloaded news app in the world. That's why. They let us see who they really are because they thought they could control it. They thought the FBI would stop it. The FBI on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all these places, because the FBI did in 2020 very successfully. Censored for over 30 agencies and the NAACP and the Democrats, everybody but the Republicans. And by the way, they were censoring for the Republicans too. Joe Rogan just nailed that one. There's actually an organization called IJR, and that's all the right neocon Republicans. They have their own censorship apparatus too. I did not know that. That's why the Republicans didn't fight free speech. They didn't want it either. And so the Democrats went too far. They went forward with radicalizing their base, thinking they'll never lose again. They'll never lose because they so successfully kept Trump from getting his message out 2020. They just let it all hang out. They let their hair down, radicalized their base, built certain expectations with their base, figuring, yeah, we'll just cover it up. We'll have the FBI censor everybody. And then Elon Musk bought Twitter. Rumble came to prominence. They failed to stop it. That was their mistake, letting us see who they were because they thought they could never lose. And here's the other reason they thought they could never lose again was the cheating that they did in the last election. Number one, their ability to censor and hide that cheating, which they did very successfully. We're only still now finding out parts and pieces of it. And then the mass balloting. The thought was, well, we'll get to another term and we're going to pass all the laws that they have in California that make mass mail-in ballot fraud possible, and we'll never lose. And then Elon Musk bought Twitter and everything, swirled the toilet for them. And this is why they're suddenly freaking out. Oh, he can't control what's said on these, on these streams, on these podcasters, and we can't control it. Oh no, oh no, oh no. But they did have control of it. That's what gigged them. That's what fooled them. That's why they made the mistake. The mistake they made was not their message. The mistake they made was not some strategy that they did or didn't have. The mistake they made was losing control of Twitter. And what did if you listen to me for a long time, I'm the only one who called this. What did I say to you? So many of you get mad at me so many times. You lay out all the bad things in the world, Tara. Every day you do. You never tell us how to fix it. And what are you talking about? I do. I said, if we had one big social media outlet, one place in the world that everybody trafficked and went to, where the truth could be told, we only need a one, we would win. We would beat them on every single issue, and every issue would fix itself. Every one of them. It would all fall in place. It'd be a little messy, but it would all fall in place. And they could have free speech too. In fact, I want them to. They expose themselves all the time. In fact, I think that's what's behind the Democrats' campaign to tell left-wingers, get off Twitter. They're getting killed by their own message. People are getting a real look at who they are and going, oh my gosh, who are these freaks? They went too far. They went too far because they thought they won. They thought they could do it through mass ballot fraud. Everybody from the dead voters to the felon voters, to the people who live at 3 different addresses, to the people who vote from out of state. And when they didn't have the cover of COVID and they didn't have the censorship, they couldn't do it. And then X grew because X is interesting. You can get things unfiltered there. You know when I knew we had won and they were in trouble? I didn't tell you this because I needed to drive you to the polls. I was pretty sure we won. I was 100% because I thought they might still be able to steal it, but I was pretty sure. Elon Musk retweeted a comment from just some random Twitter account. I don't even know who it was. Small account. And it was a person who said she was riding the bus to work. And that she was looking around the bus and everybody had their phones up and they were all on X. Every one of them. And Elon Musk, of course, retweeted this. She said, everybody's there. They're all figuring out what's going on. Yeah, and that's what Van Jones is talking about. And he's saying the mainstream has become the fringe, and the fringe has become the mainstream. These platforms, there are people out there that are getting 14 million streams, and we're on cable news doing 1 to 2 million. No, you were always extreme. You were always the fringe. You were always the minority. Always. And you use censorship and your control, your lock on the mainstream media so that your culture would be foremost and dominant, but never really was. That was the big lie. And the big lie has exploded, and they'll never get that back. Unless you manage to get a hold of X again, get the lock on it. If they're going to try, did you see what Zuckerberg rolled out this weekend? Sorry, this week. For the first time, we will have online re-education camps. Yeah, if you get a strike on Facebook, and they had beta tested this, right, with a limited number of people, they just rolled it out. If you get a strike on Facebook and it's your first strike, you can go through re-education camp online and get your reach of your account restored. Only one time. Yeah, then you go in the gulag. But you have to go through training. So what they're going to do is fake news train you. So you get good and brainwashed and you agree, yes, I agree now. Say it like a zombie. Yes, I agree now. Yes, I agree. I know what not to say. And if you go through this class they have, then they'll give you your account back, but only once. After that, you go permanently to the gulag. And so what are you seeing this week? You're seeing Zuckerberg donate money to Trump, but institute the gulag across Facebook and Instagram. They're not changing at all. In fact, they're doubling down. It's getting worse because it's all they have. They can't run on who they are. And now their base expects them to run on who they are. This is a problem for them. So many lies, so little time on this show. I've been doing this so long that I actually remember a time when if you posted on social media that there was DNA in them there shots, why, you would be shut down quickly. You would get a content correction. You might actually even be algorithmically limited. Or, God forbid, go to Facebook jail or permanently lose your account. For saying what again? Oh, that there's DNA in those shots. That's a conspiracy theory. Where did I hear that the first time? Oh, I know. It was in under oath testimony before the South Carolina legislature. Joining me to talk about that, and there's a reason we're revisiting that today, is Dr. Karen DeVore. Good morning, Dr. DeVore. And if you could
Good morning, Sarah.
If you could pull that up, Tim, thank you very much. Good morning. Okay, so I remember back when you and your other fellow professionals went to the South Carolina legislature and testified about the dangers of the mRNA COVID vax shots. Take us back through that, and then we're going to talk about what we learned this week.
Well, Sarah, thank you for keeping this in the news. I mean, I think everyone, myself included, is getting tired of talking about COVID. It seems like it'll never end. But, until we get, accountability, we don't have medical censorship, and we can learn the truth, I'm just afraid this is going to go on and happen again. You were referring to a September 12th, 2023 medical affairs testimony. It was the joint House and Senate. And I would really love for your readers to go back and get the archives, scstatehouse.gov, and then they go to archives for 2023, the Medical Affairs Committee, September 12th. There is 7 hours of testimony from area experts, but also from national experts. And one of the people, and I think the one that you're referring to mostly, was even our own Dr. Philip Buckholtz from Columbia, South Carolina, who testified that he had tested all the Pfizer vials that were in the Columbia area and found DNA in all of them. And he was not the first. I think he was the third. I think William McCowan or something like that had discovered it the first time. And I think somebody in Canada had reported it, and it's been verified now, and it's been a year and a half.
So the reason we're talking, that was obviously again a South Carolina testimony. You guys were trying to get some action on the mRNA shots and the danger of them in South Carolina. And by the way, it's not just there was DNA in the shot. It was how very dangerous that it was. And we'll hit that in a minute. But this week we have a peer-reviewed study that has come out. It's published in the journal Science, Public Health Policy. That's one of the science subjournals. And they found you guys were right. There is DNA contamination in the vaccines. Tell me about that.
Yes, it has been reported, and it's many levels over what is regulated, and it's encapsulated in the nanotechnology, nanolipids. It can penetrate the brain. It can penetrate lots of organs. And it's foreign DNA, and there's also the SV40 cancer promoter in these vaccines.
So it's strange because I haven't really seen this everywhere. I would think this would be huge news.
I'm sorry to say there is nothing new going on here. I've been on your show in the past, and I wish I had something new to report. To me, this is all old news. It's just making it in a peer-reviewed science, journal now. I think many of us have been trying to get this information out for a year and a half or more. Actually, more if you want to go back to the problems we thought there was with masks and social distancing and just the reactions to the vaccine. I do think the DNA information is probably a year and a half or so old.
In other words, we knew this in South Carolina. We've taken no action. One person who has taken action is I think Surgeon General of Florida, Dr. Latipo, who has said, don't take these shots. They are dangerous for the same specific reasons, the damage that the DNA that's in the shot can do.
Right. These are actually genetic modifying products. They're really not vaccines. They had to change the definition of vaccine to even, cover this and call it a vaccine under an emergency mandate. They are genetic modifying, material. And I wish we had stronger people like Florida's Surgeon General. I think he's right. I think, we all wanted at least a pause on the vaccines till this information could be validated or confirmed. And we didn't even get that. I mean, I think the good news is, I think the last thing I saw is about 18% of people are still taking the COVID vaccines. But that's still 18% too high, in my opinion, at least until we get the vaccine cleaned up and we have some long-term studies, and then we can give informed consent to people who choose to continue to get boosters.
And by the way, Dr. Karen DeVore, you are an MD. You are a medical doctor. So you are saying, like, whoa, don't take this.
That's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think, and I definitely think until we know more about this vaccine, we know more about what's in it, there may be other contaminants, and until we know the long-term studies, and certainly not be giving it to pregnant women and children.
I know. Real quickly, one of the other things that we were told was a conspiracy was the idea that the spike protein, it only stays at the shot site. It doesn't go throughout your body. Don't worry about it. This same study in Science that just came out shows that's not true either.
And again, I think we have shown that repeatedly too.
Yeah.
I'm just glad science put it out. I'm glad it's coming back into the news. Yes, it travels all over the body, and that lipid nanoparticle helps it to penetrate. That makes it more, effective to get into your cells. And then once the mRNA gets into your cells, and even the mRNA is a modified mRNA, once it gets into your cells, who knows what happens? There is the potential that it gets incorporated into your own DNA, and then it can even, number one, transform any of the cells that it's incorporated into, but conceivably it could even be passed genetically to, your offspring.
Wow. That is mind bending when you think of the lengths that the FBI, which operated as the belly button, according to the Twitter files, went to keep people from finding that information out when it was censoring for the CDC, for the FDA. And what's the interesting part to me, Karen, that we don't have is why? Why go to all this trouble? Why tell these lies? Why not just tell people the truth? We don't have that answer.
When do you censor medical information and science? I mean, don't we have a debate and have theories and try to figure out what the truth is? That's just, I don't know how long it's been going on for, but I certainly think COVID exposed a lot of it.
Yes. So anyway, it's going to be fascinating to find out what, and we're going to get all this to find out what that shot truly does, what the long-term ramifications actually are, but most importantly, why they censored the truth about it for so long. And I'm really hopeful that Jay Bhattacharya is going to be able to go into the federal government and get a lot of that for us. I'm super excited about Dr. Jay Bhattacharya being part of Trump's team. So
yeah, I am too.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karen DeVore, for joining us this morning on 98.9 WORD. Headline: Washington Post: FBI at the Capitol Capitol riot? Question mark. Nope. And they're going to retract that one when? I don't know. They've never returned their Pulitzer that they won for their reporting on Alpha Bank. You know, how Vladimir Putin was using Alpha Bank to communicate, their servers to communicate with Donald Trump. So Trump could get the marching orders from the Russian government. It sounds hilarious now, but it was all the rage at the time. Every bit of it is fake. By the way, we know that because Alpha Bank sued, went to court. They did all the discovery. There's nothing of the sort. It's completely made up. And yet the Washington Post and the New York Times, who have a shared Pulitzer from that story, never returned it. So I don't hold out a lot of hope that they'll correct this article now that they've been proven wrong, since they're proven wrong so often. Texture rates. Tara, do you feel talking about the interview we just did. Tara, do you feel the same way about getting the flu shot? Well, I can tell you how RFK Jr. feels about it, which is going to make this whole thing interesting. Headline: RFK Jr. blows the whistle on the flu shot. He's warning they're going to go nuts. The pharmaceutical industry is going to full on lose it on this guy. And I say, bring it. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. warns against taking the flu shot due to limited protection against circulating flu strains and increased risk of non-flu infections. He says taking the flu shot makes you highly susceptible to other viruses that are not the flu, especially COVID. And he cites a Pentagon study that found that individuals who received the flu shot were 36% more likely to catch coronavirus. He says flu shots also contain toxic mercury, with levels exceeding EPA standards, posing risk of neurological damage as mercury can cross the blood-brain barrier. But mostly, he said, it just sets you up to get every other virus out there. That makes sense. You know, over the years, so many people have said to me, you take the flu shot, you get sick. And the doctor will even tell you, it's a sign it's working. Well, I mean, it kind of is against the strain you got vaccinated for. Sometimes. Just not against every other strain. Anyway, RFK warning people not to take the flu shot. People are going to freak out. It's going to be so much fun watching him. It is. Oh, by the way, the FDA is moving on withdrawing the approval of some of these red numbered food dyes because they're toxic. All of a sudden, is get ahead of RFK. Why? Because they've always known they were toxic. They just were never made to care before. It's awesome, actually. Have a great weekend.